What is going on? We are going to mess around with the Mortek crawler, big old catapult from the Ossiarch BoneReapers. I just kind of sprayed some different brownish tones on the model, kind of create some variation, and then we'll use some instant colors and some contrast colors, some of these scale 75 instant paints, and just see what we can come up with, see if we can get something good. So hopefully we can. We'll see. This is the base that I did in the other video. It's dry. I don't love the rocks, so probably do something different with those rocks, but so far it looks okay. So we're going to start. I'm going to try Ogre Brown and Rotten Pus instant colors. I got that Kickstarter, and these Bone Reaper guys are kind of a fun way to try and use them. Oh, also we'll use some more of that Demon Brown. Actually, we'll start with that one because that's going to be kind of the bottom. I kind of like that on the Cavalos Death Riders here. They got kind of some purplish tones near the bottom, and some of that's because of this Demon Brown wash. So I think we might actually go ahead and use that on the feet of this model. I think we're going to do some dry brushing on this guy. I don't know if we'll get to it right away, but all right, I'm going to go ahead and just jump in with a beat up size 6 ghost brush. Although this is a really, I'll go in and just use a cheap wash type brush. It's just a big soft brush. I'm going to go ahead and thinned out that, what is that called? Demon Brown. Hey, what up, John? How's it going? Welcome. So yeah, of course, I do these streams mostly so we can chit chat in the comments and hang out more than just, tutorial. But if you have questions about hobbying, of course, let me know. Got some pretty exciting news for my Kickstarter campaign. I'm going to be a guest on the Dwarven Forge Twitch channel next Thursday. So not tomorrow, but a week from tomorrow. And they like the new Ghost Tiny brushes, and they're having me on to talk about them, which is going to be really cool. Really appreciate it too, because if you know them, they have huge success on Kickstarter as well. People love their dungeons. All right, so we'll just put that wash on and then wipe it away a little bit to hopefully keep some of that, pre-shade we sort of did with the airbrush. But it's not much of a pre-shade because I kind of just sprayed random colors at it. Not random, but just a variety of bone colors, and just tried to create something somewhat interesting. Oh, nice. You don't paint miniatures or anything? Just hanging out. That's cool. Yeah, the paint streams are always fun to watch or listen to if you're doing something maybe not as valuable, but paint along with, or I guess watch. There's probably somewhat relaxing seeing, colors applied. There we go. This is just a makeup sponge here. So and we'll be done with this in just a second. And then we'll move on to some of those other colors that I haven't used yet. Some of those browns. I also got an Agarose Dune, which is a contrast paint. I have used that before. It's fine. It's a good one. And one more little set. I bought this already assembled off, or I traded for it, but like 100%. Oh, that's not a bad idea. I wonder if I should just cut this guy off. Cut this wheel off. There's a piece in there it looks like I could cut. And then just re-glue it back on later because he's so in the way to paint. Like, I know when people get their models, they want to, get them all built and play with them before they're all painted, but I just don't understand some of these pieces are clearly would have been better to, I think, leave separate. Certainly from a painting point of view, it's just really hard to reach into these places. So actually, I'm going to change my mind. It 100% would be a better idea to go ahead and clip that wheel off so I could paint behind it. But we're going to be lazy, leave the wheel on, and just make the best of it. And if we miss some of it, whatever. That's how we're going to treat that. All right, so there we go. We got some of his legs kind of washed there. And we'll jump into, I guess we'll try Ogre skin, Ogre brown. Oh, nice. Building model cars. I don't really do any model cars or anything like that. I have painted some Hot Wheels for Gaslands, but I do have this Mega Man I've been working on a little bit. He's like a little Bandai Mega Man. So I'm thinking about finishing him up on stream, but just because I don't 100% know the direction I'm going with him, I haven't decided to put him up on stream and use him yet. Oh, also, if anybody's enjoying the video, please subscribe, click the like button. That always helps. Thumbs up. So here we go. We're going to try Ogre Brown. Ogre Brown. This is from that Kickstarter. The instant colors. So I got my giant thumbtack here that I use to open scale 75 paints. Okay, so this is, I actually like this color. So it looks a lot like, looks very close to like a raw sienna. If you can see that. So I would think if miniature companies use normal names for their paints, they would call this raw sienna. So that's actually good to know, because if you were doing like a limited palette or a natural palette, this would actually be a nice color to have in your repertoire. So let's just decide, I guess, maybe everything that looks like a spinal cord is this. Does that sound good? We'll add a little bit of water to it too. That's just distilled water in the little cup there. Yeah, on sort of a mental health note, I get a lot of anxiety driving. So I guess this is pretty therapeutic for me too, as far as just relaxing and being at home. All right, that's cool. We'll just hit things that look like spinal cords will now be this yellow, but we'll still wipe it away. Can we see that? I'll still just wipe the excess away with this makeup sponge. It's just cut up makeup sponge. Part of that is helps reduce any kind of pooling, but also it's going to speed up dry time if we're going to continue to work on this model. So we don't have to wait for a huge pool of paint to dry. This is kind of an interesting area. It kind of blends into these other pieces. So kind of wipe that away. All right, there's not really any more spines, but there are kind of rungs on a ladder here for the skeleton to climb up and aim, I guess. So we'll go ahead and hit those. Partially too, just because I have all this paint in my little cup. So I'm not going to waste it. Or I don't want to waste it. I will if I have to. Oh, there's another thing. Like in here, there's so many details. But of course, when somebody builds it all together and not leaves it separate for painting, we're just going to have to try our best and reach those little details. Oh, also a side note I don't love is there's a lot of cat hair primed into the models. Like I can see some now that I was just doing that. So I might try to get that out with a pair of tweezers if I can reach it. But, you know, it's fine. You get a good deal trading with your buddies. So it's fine. Not exactly how I would do it, but like I said, we're just going to make it work. I think we'll go ahead and hit the sort of center of the wheel here. Here we go. So we're sort of just adding kind of a yellowish tint to some of the bone. Cool. All right. I'm not mad at that. Now I think rotten pus. This one looks way more yellow, so we might actually not even use this one. But let's see what we're working with. Oh, you guys go live on YouTube, or do you have a Twitch channel? I don't know a lot about Twitch, but I think if I could maybe figure out how to stream on Twitch and YouTube simultaneously, I'd try it a little more. I'm just going to put a little bit of that into. That's very close. All right, we don't need this color. It's basically like a cream color. It's like this yellow brown without the brown, but it's like a neutral yellow. So that's not going to be of any. I don't think we're going to need that one. I'm going to grab the little handy dandy Necro paint pot holder. We're going to check out Agaros Dunes GW contrast paint. Fits right in there. And I think what we'll do. All right, so this is just water in here. And we're going to use the contrast right out of the pot. but then I guess swipe a wet brush over the areas as well and thin it out if we need to. Yeah, I think this is going to be a nice combination for a bone color. So maybe we'll go kind of heavy with this. And we'll use water to really try to preserve some of our pre-shade. And some of this on the inside. I mean, when you can't, I don't have a choice. It's already glued together, so it's not like I can really do much to the inside here. Which part of me is, I'm not, like I was saying, it's not that big of a deal because I don't mind maybe getting this army fully painted or getting a good portion of this army fully painted before I lose motivation. Yeah, this is a nice tone. Agarose Dune contrast paint over some sort of thinly applied over, I guess, some sort of neutral bone type colors. And I'd say it's pretty nice. We got like Agrax Earthshade and washes like that as well, which of course would be good choices. Maybe we'll use some for areas we want noticeably darker. So we're just sort of, like a big drop came out of my model. Got a lot of paint and water mixing around on the model right now. So after we kind of put it on, I guess I'll try to get in there with the sponge and see if we can't clean up some of it. I'm not being overly careful around the skeletons. I think they'll be maybe picked out a little more specifically, I guess, consciously. The reason I'm just using this real cheap soft brush here is because when you're stabbing into this model, like I am, because it's already been completely assembled, it's really, really damaging on the brush. So using this sort of just soft brush I don't care about means I can just stab into it and I don't care about it. And it holds a lot of water. You could probably use the Ghost dry brush size 1. Wouldn't be a bad choice, especially if you've used it a lot and maybe it's on lower on the totem pole for the tasks you use it for. All right, let's rinse the brush. And I'm going to take a makeup sponge and just wipe away at our model here. And some of it's probably dry, some of it's probably not. We'll see if we can't just at least create some tonal variations in our finish. One problem when you wipe contrast paint that's been sitting for a little bit, you might get a weird like coffee stain effect, but that's okay. We can just fix that later and with like a highlight. Cool. That looks fine. Just going back, I think visually, if we make the skull piles a little bit of this demon brown color, adding this kind of redder tone up on the model, I think it's going to look nice. And there we go. Now, let's get another contrast out. Let's go with maybe like Gore Grunta, if I can find it. Oh, I don't think I've watched Gilbert Mondragon before. Yeah, I'm not on Twitter, but on Twitch. That's where I'm going to be on with the Dwarven Forge guys. So we're going to try a Dark Oath Flesh. We're going to stick with our kind of wet brush technique and hit sort of the wheel and this catapult itself, I think. We'll try to load this on pretty good. And then same where we sort of try to wipe away the excess. But I'd rather be kind of sloppy and make sure I try to get it in all the areas that are really hard to reach with a fully assembled catapult paint job here. There we go. Just go ahead and sort of wipe that away. There we go. We got kind of, got a lot in there. Look at that. You see it pouring. That's with all the water and contrast paint there. I think back under here, just kind of darker and shadows are better. Maybe here and here too. It might be too much. Just building up some variation. And I think we can get the wheel here. Try to sort of miss the center of the rungs, but it's fine if we get them. Like I said, really hard on the brush to be stabbing into places. You basically destroy a brush this way. So be warned when you're painting a fully assembled model, like with this many layers to it, basically. It's a brush destroyer for sure. There we go. Kind of some different bone looks. And I think I'm just going to take Military Shader from Army Painter. Hey, Sammy 3D, what's going on? It is 12:20. I'm going to mix the military green shader into that yellow. And create something dirty. And I'm going to go ahead and use this on the skeletons. I don't think it's got enough green in it. So this guy might just be the least green skeleton in the crew. And we might add some more here. More military shader. Get this guy, he's more green now. This is just because we're going to dry brush him or something, more of a bone color anyway. So this will just give him sort of a green shadow or undertones. It'll be somewhat green. And I'm just doing that just so there's some variation and difference between the skeletons, crew, and the machine that they're working on. And this model's, I got 2 of these actually. It's probably going to take a while to finish, but maybe we can get through all these washes and stuff. I don't know if we'll be finishing it up anytime tonight because it's pretty complicated. I actually did cut off a few extra little hanging bits that just were sort of decorative, but this was glued to the base as well when I got it. So I went ahead and snipped off some pieces, like they were kind of like bone chains that strapped it in to the ground, and I just cut them off and threw them away because they were going to also be more in the way trying to paint them. And then this guy was going to be a pain in the wheel. Try to get some paint on him. There we go. Cool. And I'll go ahead and give these guys a little bit of a dab or a wipe just to get any of the major pooling of green paint away. So nothing in the army. I mean, I've only painted some cavalry guys and character, but nobody's actually had any metallics yet. Now it's questionable. It seems like this would be like a metallic band. That seems like it's metallic. the kind of shovel and hammer here, possibly metallic. So be interesting. I don't know 100% if I'm gonna do those metallic because that's kind of thinking about doing no metallics in the army, but the only other option is okay, then they're bone again, which, you know, not overly exciting. We need some kind of like, oh, you know what? We'll go back to Demon Brown here. Just as a really kind of maroon base coat. And we'll go ahead and hit the sort of wrap. And we can just sort of give it a, I think I might prefer it with a little more. Gonna hit dark tone. Yeah, I'm usually up, obviously, really late as well, but I've been trying to get started on these a little earlier. This is dark tone. It's sort of like a Nuln Oil type paint. Just use it to block in the stone here. Which this stone could probably be like maybe the same color as the armor plates. Like maybe they make it out of this. I think it's called Naderite or whatever their weapons are called. So maybe that's what this stone is too. I'll have to probably look at the official artwork on Games Workshop. Just try to see, like, did they treat this stone as a big block of whatever these guys make their weapons out of? Which is certainly possible. And if that's the case, then I'll probably paint it blue. Just adding some of this dark tone around the model a little bit, where kind of bones meet, just as something for a little bit of visual interest, as well as just using up the paint since I got it in the little cup. All right, cool. Yeah, I think the big problem with this model is how do you make this many bones interesting? So we're adding some variations in tones, and I think that's, you know, hopefully good enough. I grab ultramarine blue contrast paint. This one will switch over to just one of the old Ghost Tiny brushes here. So we got a little bit more sharper detail, I guess. It's not insanely sharp, but and I don't want to flood the model with this, but Definitely want to get a nice coat down. I didn't even know there was a little bit of cloth under here. So we have been doing that blue on the others as well. So I guess that's blue also. Not being overly careful here, but not rushing it. Not, I guess, overthinking it. Just, we know we can go back and clean up if we have to. And I think behind we'll just skip because it's going to be a pain to reach. And I'll go ahead and just hit their little armor. Well, they're kind of naked. A lot more, or a lot less armor than the cavalry guys. Doesn't even really, I mean, I guess it could go around their back, but that's not how we did it on the others, but I think we have to do it on these or else it's not going to be very interesting. So we'll wrap it all the way around their back. Which means we got to get under here too. Yeah, when this model already being assembled is one of those where it's like, just keep the paint moving, keep going. Eventually, it'll probably be cool enough. And then call it done and don't worry about it. Which isn't so bad. I mean, it's sort of low stress when you can just kind of try your best at reaching these hard to reach spots and hopefully it looks okay. This guy in the wheel, though, he's going to be a problem every step of the way. Might have to try and finish the guy in the wheel. And then that way I can just never worry about hitting the wheel with the colors I'm trying to use on him. There's another version. I'll show you in just 1 second. There's 2 ways to build it. One where it's launching a thing and one like this where it's loading. I didn't build it. It's just how it came from my friend who I traded with. You know what? I just painted that guy's head blue, and that's not even a helmet. That's just his head. But, oh well, now it's a helmet, I guess. If we don't like it, we'll fix it later. But right now, it's a blue helmet. All right, so we got some kind of blues down as base coats. Yeah, I felt like, so I honestly probably would have built them both. downward because this is going to be easier to store, easier to transport. If you're fitting him in like a Tupperware or something, he's not that tall. But this is the other one where this giant thing is all the way up in the air, and then this flimsy casket or whatever is being fired out. So yeah, just the difference in size there for convenience of painting and storing and whatnot. But I guess it's okay having one of each. I'm glad they're both not shooting in the air. Or I've actually been tempted too to maybe just cut off this because I don't know, some random little sailing. You could just cut it right there and get rid of that kind of casket. It is an opportunity to do something cool right there to make the model look good, but it's also something you gotta paint. All right, I think we'll let those washes dry for a second. Maybe we will grab a, oh yeah, let's grab a dark one. We'll grab this sepia ink. This should be like a really dark brown. Sepia is like a sepia wash isn't usually super dark, but because it's like an ink and not a wash, it's more powerful. And I'll go ahead and ink these like tusks. And I'll go around the model and see if I can find anything else. Little details that maybe need to be darker, just out of the sake of being more interesting. I don't think it's important to hit them right now, but I think the claws on the catapult got kind of a bone hand kind of look. I think that's a good place to darken them. We'll do it now. I'll probably get dry brushed over and we'll have to do it again. But at least it'll remind us. The little tips of the ladder. Those look like good spots. Maybe these rungs in the middle there, ribs. Actually, this kind of spiky part, maybe hit that with a little bit. Why not? There we go. Maybe these don't matter really, but these little toes or whatever they are. And we'll use some of that to just darken underneath where we really don't want to draw any extra attention to. So just dark and out of the way is kind of the motto. There are like skull details sculpted into the bottom here, but yeah, let's not worry about that. I think actually too, we'll hit the bottom of this spine. Just you can probably see it from above, and having it like a dark cast shadow under it's probably going to sell as looking pretty good. Maybe the bottom of these ribs down here. There you go. Just so if there's any angle where you're looking at it, maybe you could see down there. Yeah, there are some. So it's kind of like, well, maybe we'll just darken that up to basically tell the viewer, don't look down there. It's too dark. You can't see it. Oh, there's some little like rib vents or something. Yeah, in the airbrush stage, what I should have done actually is went a little heavier to darken up underneath here. Darker the better, I think. Just the, the darkest black, brown, or whatever. There we go. Maybe these little holes. All right, that's looking okay. Got a lot of bone variety going here. Yeah, I use airbrush mostly just for like rough base coats, or I'll use it just priming and zenithal highlighting, but nothing more than that usually. Probably could use it a bit more, but I just haven't. Well, I think we could. Problem with this much kind of liquid on the model in water and paint and whatnot is it's hard to dry brush because you're going to hit a wet spot and it's going to completely just smear. So you really have to kind of wait for it to completely dry. So I guess we just keep adding washes. Try to get something more and more interesting. Let's make one. Let's go. Let's go dark rust. I think we need more water in our little cup there. Let's go dark rust with brown. Model wash brown. That's not all that exciting. We'll hit it with a ink tints black also. Why not? There we go. We'll mix that up, see what that does. Let's put a little flow improver in our pot too. That's the Vallejo flow improver. See what I'm doing here? Stirring my brush in this little pot of paint. That also destroys your brush because I just soaked so much paint into the ferrule. But this is a really old brush, a couple, 3 years old or so, synthetic brush. So, we'll give it a rinse off to help save it a little, but just so you know, it's really bad for the brush. That's why you can see all that paint buildup, the dark ring near the bottom there. But like I said, this is an older brush, so we've used it many, many times, and it's okay if it's destroyed eventually. All right, let's take this and do the shovel. And the little hammer. Oh, you got 2 hammers. Cool. That's like classic GW sculpting. Like, hey, this model has a hammer. Let's give him another hammer on his belt. We can't possibly have a single area that's not covered in some tiny trinket or detail. Not sure an extra hammer adds anything to this model, but he's got one. This guy up here's got some kind of tool, so we'll get that. I think we'll actually use this on maybe those things that maybe will be metal later, but we're not 100% sure yet. Because maybe just being dark is good enough. Oh, we should get in there too. And I'm purposely not being overly careful, just out of speed, but also just having the bone kind of colors mixing and mingling around the model right now is fine, because we'll kind of be able to clean up anything with dry brush or highlights. Get some of that kind of dark color back in there too to help hide it up a little bit. And I think this sort of chain thing in here, we originally did kind of yellow. I think we'll darken that up. There we go. Sort of darken that. I think we'll darken our kind of yellow chains here too. With all those nice warm yellowish browns and stuff, we've definitely got a lot of the same kind of colors going on. I'm going to hit these ribs, maybe just the tops, just to give them a little bit of separation. We'll look for more spots like that. Maybe like underneath there. That's a good spot, actually. A little heavy. Make it heavy under there. Get that dark. Kind of put a shadow, like a cast shadow. Help separate the leg from the platform. There we go. Oh, I definitely just whacked my brush across the model somewhere. But I'm not really sure where. Looks like we got a little sloppy there. I'll clean that up. Actually, though, we should probably hit this stuff up top. Little bird and little weather vane or whatever that is. All right. Got some cool stuff going on. Maybe we'll hit the teeth. Totally missed. Hit the kind of teeth of the dragon thing here. Oh, maybe this wheel or spoke or whatever it would be called. Axle. Oh, he's got a little tool in his hand too. And he's got some on his belt. So in my little mixture here, I don't honestly think that orange I added is doing anything, but we put it in there, so go us. I think I'll actually take this too and just hit the joints of all the legs. Give it that extra kind of dark line. where we can. There we go. We'll rinse that off. Anywhere we see that maybe is a little boring or too much light in one area, maybe we can darken it a little bit. And let me jump over on the chat. Oh, hey, John. All right. Have a good night, man. Yeah, I'll definitely make sure I give you a sub. Thank you so much for hanging out. I'm going to darken up this kind of line around where the armor and bone armor kind of meet, just because later I know I'll kind of separate them with something, paint, but anywhere, especially underneath the model, if you see something that just looks like it didn't get hit with any of the washes we've done so far, and it's just too bright, we'll just hit it with this kind of generic dark brown. Definitely seeing some areas that are, maybe avoiding the paint a little bit and could use a little bit more of a shadow in that area. Trying to focus just really on those. Basically, it's those hard to reach areas because of painting a pre-assembled model. So hard to reach areas. If you see them looking really way too bright for where they are on the model, we're trying to solve that by just giving it a nice dark wash. Oh, there's actually like little ropes on that piece. That might have been one of the pieces a piece I cut off for like right there. Alrighty, and I guess we'll go ahead and try to hit these claws again. They'll get lighter when we dry brush on that area, I'm sure, but just remind ourselves that as of right now, we think it looks better with those being dark. If I built this model, I don't know how much of it I would have left separate and how much I would have just said, what the heck, let's just glue it together and see how we can do. But there definitely would have been some thought into what's going to be really hard to paint. Because right now I'm just doing the wash. This doesn't even take into account like trying to dry brush or highlight this thing. Hopefully I'm doing an okay job keeping it in camera, but it's kind of big and clunky, so my bad if it keeps going out. A lot of spiky bits on that thing. Keeps grabbing onto my glove. Laser in the building. What's going on? No, not the angled brush. I don't want the angled brush. I don't like it. I can use my straight brush on the model to get any angle, I think. This might be the time. Maybe this is the time you need the angled brush, when somebody builds your model all crazy. I need to get the ultramarine blue out, and I realized I missed a little bit of armor. I don't even know if that's on camera. On this guy's back. Okay, that's fine. All right, I think the next step would be to get out the cardboard. Probably try and get some dry brush done. This would be one of those rare models where you actually could go with a bigger dry brush. Like the size 2 here is pretty big for most 28 mil models, except for like the very beginning stages and the, those nice basing and things like that. But in this case, it might be too small. Let's go back and check on our base here. We got the sand base. I still need to figure out what to do with those rocks, but actually I think I'm going to place them this way, maybe where the wheel's on that pile of rocks. So he's got kind of a cool contrast away from the base. The base will have like tufts and stuff on it. If you want somewhat of a better example, they still need a little bit more of the dry pigment, but so their bases aren't done either, but I think for the dry brush, we might go with a little bit of the old Vallejo. And I think we might go maybe game or rotten white, ivory, silver gray, and Iraqi sand. I think, if I had a color maybe a little darker than Iraqi sand, to only dry brush like the darker bones. Let me find one here. It's still gotta be noticeably lighter though than the model itself. Oh, we could do like Jack Bone. It's not really darker though. It kind of fits just right into the other colors. We might have to just mix it. We can do that. We can mix it. All right, let's go Iraqi sand. I think I'm going to mix just a hint of Beastie Brown. Oh, that's clogged. Giant thumbtack to the rescue, hopefully. There we go. We might have to keep that out because we might have to make more of this. All right, so let's just load up the brush with Beastie Brown, I guess, and that didn't do anything. And I think I really want to go dry. So I think we're going to double dry off our brush. So we'll dry it into the cardboard to load the brush. Plus we're using that Beastie Brown, which is a airbrush paint. And then I'll go over to the paper towel to really kind of remove the excess. This will start to take away some of our pooling from our washes and whatnot. And I think we'll make another batch of that. Actually, it was picking up the cardboard itself. I think that piece of cardboard's a little old. Get some more Beastie Brown out there. I think we're going to go ahead and use this color on the legs, which we want to remain kind of in that dark maroon tone. Oh, we got a lot of paint in this brush right now. Kind of. Oh, you know what? We got all that dark. Oh, whatever. We got that dark liquid I put in those cracks to really darken up the legs, and now it's picking it up and smearing. But it's fine. We're done. We're moving on. Oh, not paying attention. I made the mistake of rinsing my dry brush, so now it's not super dry. I could go to a different brush, but we're going to keep going because we'll pretend we only have one and not thousands. All right, Iraqi sand. I think we'll hit this wheel, the center of the wheel. That looks pretty nice, so I think we'll hit the top of this too. Yeah, now we're moving. Load up a little bit. Maybe we can hit too many things. It's hard to keep this big thing on camera. Try to hit some of this. Definitely this back here. You know, we'll use this on these kind of big dog bones. Get the center of those ribs. Get the inside of those ribs if we can. Fast and loose. Fast and loose. Anything breaks, throw it away. It goes in the garbage. We're moving. All right. I think that's good. I think we'll keep going this color a little bit. Because the next colors are brighter. So we can kind of pick out a lot of the bones with this, and then any areas we need to make even brighter, we can go ahead and approach that in the next step. Of course, so the idea is hopefully all that work with the washes, even though we're using somewhat of the same colors on our dry brushes, all that work with the washes is going to provide, variation in the shadows. Give us that visual interest. And of course, we just trying our best to get what we can reach. And I think it's looking pretty good. I think we got some decent bone stuff going on. All right, let's go silver gray. We'll mix it right on top of that Iraqi sand, just in case we get lucky and pick up some of it, so it's not as a stark white, but we'll just do a light brush stroke here and hit just a few things, I guess. We might be getting too much. We might not need to go even really brighter than this. Try to hit these ribs with this color a little bit. Yeah, you know what? I'm not mad at that. I think that came out pretty good. I don't even know if... Oh, I want to make that big skull lighter. Yeah, lighten that one up. Ghost dry brush to the rescue. I think you were right. Once we got some dry brush on here, it actually looks pretty cool. I mean, you can see a lot of variation. Let me see if I can get that on camera. Like here, you got really nice lights. You got nice light and shadow on the rib cage. But on the same model back here, you got the dark maroon that goes into this browner tones. You got some of the brown still showing. Looks pretty good. I think we just focus on picking out little details. And we don't actually need all these colors. We're going to actually go to Thrall Flesh. This is like a green-gray. I like this color a lot. But the store I shop at doesn't even carry P3 anymore. So once it's out, I won't be buying it again, probably. Really trying to use up. Part of this whole army is using up a bunch of paints that I don't really use all that much. All right, we're going to need the Ghost Dry Brush number 1. And we'll just hit the little skillies. Oh, I don't love this. Hold on. Gonna mix some white in with that, make it lighter. I think it's actually pulling color out of my brush. I guess I didn't rinse it very good last time I used it. There we go. Hit these little skeletons. Don't worry about the blue. We can highlight that later with a real effort. I don't want this on the surrounding areas, like on the catapult itself, when I'm doing like their legs and stuff. But I also don't care too much. If it's there, it's there. Maybe we'll hide it with the final little wash at the end. All right, that's not too bad. Give these brushes a good rinse. Usually, when you're using like the Ghost dry brush or any big soft dry brush, you really want to rinse them quite a few times. See, there's still quite a bit of paint coming out, even though it's being rinsed and quite a bit here. Same with the other one. Give them like a spin. You can give them a squeeze. See, we're getting paint out. So much paint in our dry brush right now. But that's probably good enough. I think we're still getting paint out, but if you really wanted to keep it in better condition, you can even see there's quite a bit of paint left in the ferrule from various uses. If you're trying to keep it in a really great condition for a long time, you might want to go over to the sink and go ahead and hit it with like some dish soap. Danny Thompson in the building. What's going on, man? We are painting bones, catapult bones. Gotta do something with these skulls. Let's go in with a little thing called Caribou Crimson. Oh, gotta use our Necro Paint Pot holder. Because this, if you're gonna knock over a paint, it's definitely swinging around a giant catapult. And we'll just try to focus this red wash just on the skulls. Try to maybe tint them a little maroon or red, because they're just not, well, we haven't done anything to make them interesting yet. So by tinting them a different color of the catapult, it gives a little bit of interest, like, okay, these are they're shooting red skulls, maybe they're poison, maybe they're magic, maybe they're just piles of skulls, but we're doing the red because we have the red underneath. And then we also are going to have this with like a red wrap or maroon or whatever you want to call it. It's red, but it's not fire truck red. There we go. Try to make sure you get all the little skulls underneath too. You're kind of standing on them and whatnot. We're still going to need to do some stuff with that, but at least right now they're slightly different color. So even if you did want to stop there or just hit those with a dry brush of some kind, they will look a little different. Yeah, I think we will now try. I don't know. Gotta wait for that to dry. I don't know if I really want to start all the little skeletons to get them finished right now. The option is sort of bring out the wet palette or not. I just noticed, I think I need to go back to bone color here. We'll go Iraqi sand. That's Iraqi sand. Number one, dry brush. Probably put too much paint on the palette there. Try to, I probably should switch dry brushes here. Geez, it is still letting that turquoise out. All right, that dry brush is wet, which means it's not going to be dry on our dry brush. So what I'm going to do is just grab a different one. I'm trying to see if I have one that's already open and using. I'm sure I do somewhere. It's funny, oh, I do. This is what a number 2 looks like, brand new. But I've been using the same 3 basically since I got them, since I made them. So we want this to be dry. I like that spin move to try to make sure it's loaded. You can check it on your hand. There we go. That's dry. I didn't really get the top of this ridge. So I'm just going to dry brush it a bit to bring some color onto it. Actually, I guess that's like the only one. The other one we kind of got. So for whatever reason, I just kind of missed that one. All right, now we're going to rinse that one off, so we won't have that one available to us for a while until it's dry. unless we want to do somewhat of a overbrush or kind of a smeary blending technique. You can see all the nice colors that the dry brushes turn into. For whatever reason, this teal color is still coming out of this. And I think that's because I was using it in my video with this faded blue pigment. And I think that blue pigment is actually still in that brush. So I might actually bring that one over to the sink after this and give it a wash with some dish soap. I don't mind the blue pigment in there right now, but when we are working on something maybe later that doesn't have a blue base. All right, you know what I think we'll do? I think we maybe get out the panel liner and just panel line the skeletons and then call it there tonight and just come back to it maybe tomorrow after everything's completely dry. Because I'm not going to panel line the whole thing, I don't think, but we'll panel line the skeletons. Just to really create more contrast in them. If I decide to sort of panel line the catapult, I'll probably use Death Shroud Clear from Games Workshop and not this panel liner. Although, of course, this works wonderful. It's just a lot of model to cover in this enamel ink. Get the face, get his little helmet. It's really good making sure we just create that separation in the toes and hands and knees, just so we can see all their little details. And that way, tomorrow or whenever we get back to this, these guys will be ready to just kind of put the finishing highlights on and clean up, I guess. Because I wouldn't mind just being done with it. You know, we got another one to do. We got a whole army to paint. If I really, really want to in the future, I could always come back and add on to it and make it better. Kind of load in the panel liner on the little skellies. Just giving them that heavier contrast. They'll also get more of the probably like brushwork highlights, especially on the armor. They got little gemstones, some of them on their chest. We can get this shovel too. One thing I want to avoid though is I don't want to panel line the whole army with this panel liner paint. So I've done it on the Death Riders. I'm doing it on these little skellies, but not the whole catapult. So I'm gonna have to figure out just Nuln Oil or something for the normal rank and file spearmen. There we go. It really does give you a lot of the bad edge. I haven't gloss coated this model. It seems to be fine. I don't think I've ever gloss coated a model and used it, but it'd probably work even better. That'd probably be good for like if you didn't want to stain around your panels, but I kind of like just creating all the dark, I don't know, ambiance on the model. Look at that. We don't even have to paint this guy's hands. We can just panel line him away from the thing he's holding here, and you know, he's good enough. Let me wipe it away if we get it on there. I hate this guy in the wheel so much. Really tempted to cut him off. There we go. Got the little skellies panel line. So that'll be a while before they're dry. And then, yeah, I think we'll come back in with, have to probably come back in with like a paint brush and pick out details. Maybe some little texturing highlights on some of the bigger bone areas from only the top view. You know, you could put a little highlight like on this ridge here that the dry brush caught, but you could punch it up a bit. I don't love down in like this area. You kind of see down there, it's just pretty boring. Oh yeah, there you go. Let's check him out on his base. I mean, his base isn't done yet, but we worked on it. If you saw the other video. Oh, I think I like this way. So yeah, I'll put some blue tufts on it. Get your bone shaper out. Oh yeah, you got, I think this guy can heal. Got a nice little army going. A couple Death Riders. One thing that's kind of fun is everything in this army is like 200 points. Basically, not exactly, but I mean, if I do 2 catapults and 10 Death Riders, that's like 800 points already done. This guy's probably around 100 or 100 and something. So that's probably like 1,000-point army. I got some characters and stuff, and you know, I got a whole bunch of stuff, but yeah, so these guys were all kind of that wet blend, wet palette style. This just a straight wash and dry brush style, and hopefully, you know, we get it matching pretty good. I do like how these go into more of a kind of gray bone, kind of that off-white gray bone, whereas this has more of that traditional, I don't know, just kind of normal bone look. I think I kind of prefer these, but these also took, you know, one of these took about the same time as one of those. So these took longer. They're more special, I guess. So they get a little extra. Plus, I still got to finish all those orange gems and swords and stuff. But yeah, I'll go in and I'll make sure big things in the way. You know, I'll make sure that sword is more magic looking. The gems on their chest. It looks pretty good from that angle, but you know, and then once you hit it with the matte coat and all that panel liner glossiness goes away, then it's going to look really sharp. That's how this guy, it's probably not easy to see him over top of that, but you know, he's got the matte coat. I don't think he really got the panel liner as much, or it's very selective if I did. He probably could have used a little more. But yeah, once he's got the matte coat and unify the burped or hiccuped, unify the finish a bit, then it's going to look really good, I think. So then you can see I got the blue grass tufts. I mean, just the tealish blue pigmenty base with the tufts isn't, ideal, but when you buy a whole or trade for a whole army where all your models are already glued to the base, you can't do custom basing. Whereas like these catapults, at least I could, here's the early stage of another one, I could cut the catapult off. Whereas, I'm not going to cut off 60 spearmen off their base, potentially losing feet. But yeah, normally, if you do the base before the model's on it, you can get a little bit more dynamic things going on with rocks. And, these guys are my admech. Now, this is like one of my early armies that I painted, so I still have to match their bases to the rest of the army. But you can see that, it's just cork and Nurgle's rot and whatnot, and some dry brushing, but it's still better than just blue dirt and blue tufts. There's just more textures, and that's why I've been trying to add in some of these rocks on some of these bases where there's room, just because it helps break it up. If you have dirt, rocks, and tufts, maybe flowers as well, now you've got some going, pretty interesting stuff. But yeah, I think the dry brushing really made it pop. Oh, also, I guess we really still have to decide what's going on with this rock. But I'll look at some examples of how other people painted it and just see how they treated that rock. Visually, I think it could be reddish to match some of the other reds in the model, or definitely bluish to go with the kind of blue armor plating that we'll end up doing and all those skeletons are wearing, which, hopefully will end up, more like these guys. So I think probably blue to tie it in with the rest of the army. Another thing I guess not so much on him. On this catapult, one thing I could do is really add in that really bright orange into the flame here. And that way it, pops with the other bright oranges that I'm going to do on the spears and weapons in the army. So I think that's about all I got. I'm going to take off the gloves because my hands are sweaty. Yeah, I think that's going to call it right there. I'm going to probably rinse off those dry brushes with some Dawn dish soap because I could see that teal pigment picking up, it's still picking up teal from this base, crazy base. If you guys are interested, the Ghost Tiny Kickstarter is live. If you like Dwarven Forge, I'm going to be on their Twitch channel next Thursday, so a week from today, technically. They have a stream on Thursdays for like hobby stuff, and they invited me on. I'm going to be their first guest ever. And also, they've been talking about my paintbrushes a bit on their stream, so if you like Dwarven Forge, maybe you'll like the Ghost Brush, because they seem to like it. Thank you so much, man, for watching. I appreciate it. Thanks for all the comments and thumbs up and chatting. Yeah, real quick, I always have a hard time ending these. But yeah, when I did the panel liner on these Death Riders, but I did like 7 of them in a row with the panel liner, it actually got kind of irritating, like the smell. Usually it doesn't bother me, like just doing that guy right there, not a big deal. But when I had 7 models covered in panel liner, then I was really like, okay, I'm going to leave the room and go lay down, go to bed, because it was getting too much. So that's why I don't want to just panel line this whole army and every surface. But I think it would look pretty good. So, all right, guys, thank you so much. Like, subscribe, thumbs up, comment, binge watch all the videos, share them. All those cool things people tell you to do. But most importantly, just check out the Kickstarter. And if you have any Facebook groups that you can share it into that don't mind Kickstarters being shared, I'd really appreciate it. I think we're at let's check, about 100 and $108,000. So that's pretty big. So doing big things. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate all the support.